having been close to John F. Kennedy and having known Robert Kennedy.
I worry about that all the time. So far it's been fine, but that's a great concern.
What about him and his ideology? Would you
Barack's-
consider Barack Obama to be someone who has an ideology that you can pigeonhole? Is he ideological at all?
I think he's not ideological. I think he's a pragmatist. He wants to know what works. I think Barack would be very, very happy to have the criticism simultaneously from the far left and the far right. I think if he picked up the news and he saw the far right and the far left screaming at him the same day, I think Barack would be very happy.
How was Chicago lucky enough to get him?
It was interesting because in many ways it was like the experience with Judge Layton. He saw an ad for a job in Chicago and he applied for it and got it. It was chance.
And was it your impression that he took to Chicago right away?
Yes. I think he saw in Chicago, he saw the United States. He saw the diversity and mixture of people and ethnicity. He saw a great community spirit. I think if you want to learn the United States, being in Chicago is a good place.
So I'll ask this again. What is it about Barack Obama I should have asked? What else would you like to tell us about Barack
About
Obama?
Barack? I think the big question with Barack, to me, is his capacity to restore our friendship around the world. I think the saddest thing that happened in the last years was that instead of seeing the United States as an idealistic country, they saw us as an imperialistic country. And I'll only tell you a story that Pat Ryan told me. Pat Ryan, who's head of our effort to get the Olympics. Pat Ryan was in Qatar. Well, I call it Qatar, but I guess Qatar is the right word. He was there and he met with the Emir. This a few months ago, before the election. And the Emir said, Mr. Ryan, I know you're here about the Olympics, but because you're from Chicago, I want to ask you, do you know Senator Obama? And Pat said, I do know Senator Obama. He said, I happen to be a Republican, but I know and I like and I respect Senator Obama. And the Emir said, Mr. Ryan, I want you to listen to me very carefully. If the United States elects Obama president, not only will Chicago get the Olympics, but 99% of the people in the world will salute the United States for electing Obama president. And that has stuck with me. When you realize that people all over the world, in Asia and Africa and everywhere, feel that they can better identify with the United States. It's a great thing.
Finally, I'd like to ask you about your dear wife, our esteemed trustee, Jo Minow. You met her in college?
I met her in college, and we've been together, we've been married 60 years. We've been together 3 years longer than that. My wife, the best thing that happened to me was meeting my wife, who is not only a great mother, but a great wife and a great contributor to the city of Chicago. My wife loves this institution since she was a child. She used to come here on her own from after school to the Chicago, that time it was called the Chicago Historical Society. She loves Chicago. She loves Chicago history. And she also tells me how lucky she was, Gary, to find you as its president.
Oh, thank you. I wonder if you could comment on the changing times in the sense that you have 3 talented daughters who are mothers themselves and have careers. And your wife has the blessings of the same kind of education, wonderful mother, but lived in an era where women like that didn't necessarily have careers. You've seen this whole change in your own lifetime. What do you think about this as a husband and as a father?
I think I was very involved with changing Notre Dame from an all-male school to a co-ed school. And now we see that the best students are the women, that the environment of and the spirit of the place is better than it's ever been. And I think that's characteristic of our whole society. Another woman is being appointed Justice of the Supreme Court. We had a woman who's Secretary of State. We have a woman, in this case, a black woman, just became the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, Xerox. So I think in the current generation, the whole attitude is, why was there any argument about equality for women? Why did that ever happen? And when you think about the history of the United States, where women couldn't vote, where a black was 3/5 of a person, there was a phrase, we're moving toward the arc of history. And I think it's wonderful to be alive in 2011, where the idea of equality and the idea of freedom are becoming more and more essential to all of us. When I grew up as a kid, women were not treated this way. I've often said to Joe, and I've just talked about this yesterday, my mother was a super student, but couldn't, because the family needed her to go to work, she never even finished high school. Today, she would have been on the Supreme Court. So thank God the role of women, thank God, has changed, and to me it's all for the better.
You mentioned Notre Dame. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up your role on the Notre Dame board, someone who's not Catholic, someone who's Jewish, and your friendship with Father Hesper.
I went on the Notre Dame board because of a Meyer partner who was my boss, Ed Steffen, who later became chairman of the board of Notre Dame, and Father Hesper. And at that time, we were only an advisory board. We did not have legal authority. And one day, Father Hesper called me, and he said, I need 4 or 5 days of your undivided, total commitment and attention. We're going to go to our retreat in Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin. I didn't know what it was about. I went, and the Holy Cross Order, which owned Notre Dame, said, we want to turn this over to lay people. And it went very smoothly, except for one thing. There was a very heated argument with a lot of yelling and screaming about whether we should put in the Constitution that the president of Notre Dame had to be a priest. And I was on the side that it had to be a priest. Most of the lay Catholics were on the other side. And one of them, Al Steppen, yelled at me, he said, what the hell do you know about it? You're not even Catholic, you're Jewish, what do you know about it? And I said, Al, if you don't put this in the Constitution, eventually the president of the university will be a lay person, and the unique moral, spiritual quality of this place will be out the window. Well, that went through. 25 years later, now let's fast forward 25 years, Father Hesburgh wants to retire. The group of Holy Cross priests, the right age, the right education, consists of 4 people. So they call me up, they say, we hadn't listened to you, we wouldn't have such a narrow pool. I said, big deal. I said, get a Jesuit. And they said, a Jesuit? We'll get a Jewish president before we get a Jesuit. I was innocent of any knowledge about the different orders. I didn't know what they meant by a priest was a Holy Cross priest. That went right by me. So I was ignorant, but I still think it was correct. And we still have a priest as president, and he's a terrific priest. But I've loved Notre Dame.
And so how many years did you serve? You're still serving.
Well, I'm now a life trustee, but I served 44 years. It's a long time.
Good. Well, are there any questions I should have asked?
Well, I only
you,
asked this.
Yeah.
Father Hesburgh told me he wanted a program at Notre Dame in Jewish studies. And I went to my friend Lester Crown, and the Crowns and the Minnows, with the Crowns putting up a lot more money than the Minnows, created the Crown Minnow and I said to Father Ted, why do you want this? What do you want this for? He said, I want to teach the students how Christianity grew from Judaism. And that's very important. I said, why do you care about that? He said, well, what did it come from? From nothing? He said, the Jewish roots were Jesus was Jewish. He said, we want to teach the children how all that came about. So that's what we did, and I'm very pleased, and that's now a very important part of Notre Dame.
Well, do you have any final comments?
No, except I hope the History Museum, under your leadership, Gary, will grow and strengthen and prosper, and we're delighted you're here.
Thank you very much. On behalf of all of us here.
Good.